Attempt the impossible. Never give up. Never say die. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be discussing something that's quite close to my heart. As some of my Australian followers might know, Matthew Reilly released the final book in the Jack West Jr. series, The One Impossible Labyrinth. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be discussing my journey with Matthew Reilly, more or less, because of how much his writing, his characters have meant to me. So, cast your minds back many, many years ago to the heady days of 2009. Obama had been in office for a year. The Labour government still ran Australia. We were slowly getting things together after the global financial crisis. And I was reading a lot of fantasy. Dad had a lot of the hardcover editions of the Riffle books by Raymond D. Feist. So I take the dust jackets off and bring them to work. Not work. I was 11, 12 then. Bring them to school, read them at school. My Year 6 teacher, Mrs. Hallinan, would get concerned by this, I would say. And she was like, Lewis, why don't you read something different? Try some Matthew Reilly. So, when we had the chance, Mum and I went down to a local bookshop, which shut down, I think, a year after this happened. I don't claim to be the instigator of this, but it is what it is. And bought Seven Ancient Wonders because it seemed like the coolest one to read. Now, Seven Ancient Wonders, as I often tell people when I'm recommending Matthew Reilly, whether at work or just anywhere around, is a bit like a modern day Indiana Jones. We have our main character, Jack West Jr. He's got a bionic metal arm. He's a former soldier turned historian. And he is on this mission to seek out the missing capstone of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, this capstone needs to be found to prevent a deadly sunspot from destroying the world, pretty much. And I loved it. I love the high intensity, high octane action. I love the big start right from the get-go. I love the plucky underdog nature of Jack West and his team. And coming from a lot of fantasy and sci-fi books that I've been reading, having this very big action, which I hadn't really watched or read before. It was great, to spoil, I think, first 80 pages in this. One of the members of Jack's team, he dies about 80 pages in. Just like that. And I really loved that sort of no one is safe attitude that Matthew Reilly cultivated. And so I fell in love with the Jack West Jr. books. When I finished that, I went out and borrowed Six Sacred Stones from my local library, because there's no way that the school library was going to have it. With that, it's been a long day. I was astonished at the cliffhanger. I'd never read a cliffhanger that was so audacious in its scope. And yeah, by October 2009, I'd met Matthew Reilly for the first time for his Five Greatest Warriors tour, which was just coming out. And I thought he was the coolest guy. He had Han Solo frozen in carbonite in his office. He talked about his love for Star Wars, and I thought that was absolutely awesome. And I think, even though I didn't really think of it as a career at the time, I think I still wanted to be a paleontologist potentially. I think he's one of the reasons why I want to be an author myself. And so as the years have gone on, and I've continued to keep up with all the Matthew Reilly books, as you can see over my left-hand shoulder. Some of them anyway, the rest are behind my head, my bookshelf. I've attempted to read them as much as possible on release day. I've gone to as many events as I can. My local Big W, of all places, did signings. So I'd go along, chat to Matthew Reilly. He'd sign my books. It was great. And I just think the way he has written over the years is a really great way. Like, for me, reading has never been a problem, but especially, you hear a common complaint about teenage boys not wanting to read because there's nothing there that really caters for them. I mean, no offense to the young adult market, but in my experience, a lot of the young adult market is not really geared towards teenage boys. And so I think Matthew Reilly offers a really good niche into that, into keeping people coming back, because the way that he writes, it is just so breakneck and just so frenetic, and the characters are so good, and the stories, while they might not have the beautiful prose of an Erin Morgenstern book, or the deep thinking of Pat Rothfuss, or the absolute scale of all of the Raymond Lee Feists of the Wheel of Time. You can play them in your head as an action movie again and again and again. You can see exactly how they will be playing out. It gives you enough description to work with, but not over much description to be forced into this one image. Everyone's Jack West looks a little different. Everyone's Sergeant Gant looks a bit different. Same with the Scarecrow. And to pick a favourite, it is Jack West over Scarecrow, for those of you who are no doubt flooding the comments with that question. I think his writing did change a while, as would be expected after the passing away of his wife in 2011, which is just after Scarecrow and the Army of Thieves, which I think is the break between Matthew Reilly Phase 1 and Matthew Reilly Phase 2. But that's to be expected. Such a traumatic experience would affect his writing. For a while, we had the standalones after that of the tournament, Great Dragon Zoo, or the spoilers, the Great Zoo of China, Tron Mountain. And when you go back to reading his, like the Jack Wests, like 7, 6, and 5 to 4, 3, 2, and 1, they are different. They're a little bit darker. They're a little bit grittier. But, I mean, I don't blame him for changing things. I think they're great. There's some scenes in there which are utterly fantastic in terms of everything. And so we've come to the One Impossible Labyrinth, the very end of Jack West Jr. cycle. It's been a long time coming. For me, 12 years. For other people who've been following Matthew Reilly a lot longer than I have, because, no offense, probably not a good idea to have given 2005 8-year-old Lewis a Matthew Reilly book at the time. I think that might have been a bit too much for 8-year-old Lewis to handle. Eight, yeah, sorry, quick maths. Yeah, I've finished the book. I finished the book the day it came out. I'm still in this weird headspace of it doesn't necessarily feel like it's real, that it's over. Jack West and his team, and to use a term of my own invention when it comes to my big spreadsheet, the Matthew Reilly literary universe, which is all the Jack West books, all the Scarecrow books, the tournament, and Temple, because there's enough clues in there. And I'm not sure if this is intentional or not. If I ever meet the guy, I'll ask him, or meet the guy again. there's a reference to 7 intelligent species in the One Impossible Labyrinth. And in Contest, his first novel, there are only 7 intelligent species. So potentially, it's a reference to that, which ties that in. But it's hard to believe that it's finished. It's like when everyone finished, not to, talk about Harry Potter on the book side of YouTube, because I know Harry Potter's quite contentious. But it's like how people felt after finishing the Deathly Hallows. You've had this journey, you've had all of this for so long, and it's gone. And even if you come back to the stories, which I no doubt will, and you come back to the characters, and I'm sure Jack West and all of them will welcome me home into their team with open arms. Hopefully, anyway. It's never going to be the same. A few questions I've had for Matthew Reilly over the years. Some of which the last time I tried to ask some questions, the book signing in 2018, I fumbled massively. I couldn't get my words out. Basically, spoilers for the next minute, so skip over the spoilers if you haven't read the Jack West Jr. books. By the end of Seven Ancient Wonders, out of the 9 that starts the book, there's only 7 left. 6 Sacred Stones, 6 left with the death of Fuzzy, and 5 Greatest Warriors with the death of Wizard. I was thinking by the end of One Impossible Labyrinth, there'd be 1 left. There's not. Proves my theory wrong. That's about it. And then I had questions about whether or not William Race was going to be coming back when they went to South America in the Jack West Jr. books. He did not. Alas. Anyway, spoilers over. Matthew Reilly has meant a lot to me over the years, will continue to still mean a lot to me through the years. Very keen for Interceptor. I don't think I'm going to watch anything going into it, just because I want to retain that pure status. Matthew Reilly. Get on him. If everyone acted like a Matthew Reilly hero, I think the world might be a better place. Anyway, let me know your thoughts if you like this sort of video or not. And I'll see you next week.